One of my favorite quotes comes to us from probably the most quoted person in American history, Benjamin Franklin. Democracy, he said, is two wolves and a lamb voting on what to have for lunch. Liberty is a well-armed lamb contesting the vote. For liberty to survive, we must arm ourselves not just in the literal and physical sense, but spiritually and intellectually as well. A few months ago, I had a conversation with someone who I have the greatest admiration and respect for, Deborah Medina. We would be a lot better off if she was in the governor's office today. Well, she had called me regarding an issue with the Republican Party in the state legislature that was coming up. And as we discussed the various pros and cons of the differing issues, she said to me, what we need is some wisdom here. And I thought, wisdom in politics? Good luck with that. Wisdom often entails being on the wrong side of popular opinion, because popular opinion is not always right. Wisdom requires the strength of character to resist the temptation to bask in reverence and adulation. And what politician can resist adulation? Yet those words do echo. What we need is some wisdom here. We look at America today and at her standing in the world, and we don't recognize what we see. We hear the chants, death to America. We hear the lies and the slander. America, the great polluter of the world. America, the great despoiler of the earth. America, the great Satan. America, the great fountain of intolerance and injustice. We hear it so often that it's one of those lies that, repeated enough, begins to take on the truth. We hear it on our streets from our own citizens who have bought into the lie that America is the cause of all the ills in the world. And we are engaging in a national suicide. A nation which does not believe in itself cannot long survive. We must find common ground. From May 25 to September 17, 1787, representatives from 12 of the 13 states gathered together in Philadelphia to create a new government and draft its governing constitution. Over the course of those 116 days, 55 men from disparate backgrounds with differing interests and oftentimes conflicting agendas struggled to create a document that today many consider to be divinely inspired. Our founders created, seemingly out of thin air, what would eventually stand as the greatest testament to the miracle of freedom and the liberty of man since time began, and from which emerged a nation that throughout the ensuing centuries has shined a beacon of hope to a desperate and suffering world. And that is the truth of America. Yet it might not have been. Had our founders been implacable and immovable men, if their personal ambitions had outweighed their benevolence, if they lusted for license and not liberty, if they had been motivated by self-interest and power rather than the ennoblement of man, what a different world we would inhabit today. What would the world be had they failed? What would the world be today had America never existed? Would evil have triumphed in Europe in the last century and spread throughout the globe if America had never existed? Would the dark curtain of totalitarianism still be in place had America never existed? Would the stench of communism have choked the beating heart of liberty and enslaved all of mankind had America never existed? Would there be today footprints on the moon had America never existed? We are being lied to and manipulated in such subtle ways today that America is being transformed right before our eyes, and we don't even see it. And we must refute the lies, or we will lose ourselves to them. Just listen to what Barack Obama said just last week concerning the role of government. It's a quote. "Beginning to live within our means is the only way to protect the investments that will help America compete for jobs. Investments in our kids' education, student loans, in clean energy, and life-saving medical research. It is my sincere hope that we can continue to come together as we face the many difficult challenges that lie ahead, from creating jobs and growing our economy to educating our children. That's our responsibility. That's what the American people expect us to do. That's what the American people deserve." Which I would say, Mr. President, that is not what the American people expect or deserve. The American people do not expect the federal government to educate our children. We, the people, do not expect the federal government to create our jobs. We, the people, do not expect the federal government to engage in medical research, life-saving or not. And we, the people, do not expect the federal government to manage our economy. We are not communists. We, the people, expect the federal government to obey the damn law, to adhere to the letter of the Constitution, to restrict itself to that which it is mandated, and to stay the hell out of our lives. That is the federal government that we, the people, expect. That is the federal government that we, the people, deserve. And that is the federal government that we, the people, demand. Just what part of that is so hard to understand? Recently, we were all subjected to the disturbing yet ultimately revealing scenes of an unruly mob who had descended upon the State House in Madison, Wisconsin, chanting, "This is what democracy looks like." And we are indeed grateful for those scenes because they display to us in living technicolor exactly what democracy would look like if we were to surrender this nation to such a pack of rabble-rousing thugs as that. What was on display in Madison for the world to see was everything that the conservative patriot movement is accused of being, but is not. We saw the intolerance, the hatred, the bigotry, the racism, and the disrespect for the rule of law that is now, has always been, and always will be the hallmarks of the left and all those who are enemies of free will. America was not created or built by such people, but we have fostered them. They are in our midst just as surely as loyalists and Tories and defenders of the crown walked the colonial streets in the days of the original patriots. Today they infest our universities, teach our children, and manipulate our media. America was not created or built on the bitter soul of division. The fruits of liberty did not spring forth from fields of intolerance. Our founders were able to work through their differences of opinion and their personal ambitions because they placed above all else the establishment and advancement of a nation and a people conceived in liberty. To achieve that, they knew full well the need to find common ground. And the question becomes, can we do so again today? We must follow the example of our founders. We must declare to those who fear and envy a free people and to those who threaten liberty that we have cast aside all of the things which divide us, that we have embraced all of the things that unite us. And it is here upon which we draw a line. It is here in which we make our stand. At this time and in this place, we come together to elevate the common good, to set aside self-interest, to reach beyond things petty and small, and to break through that barrier that will enable us to understand that there is no greater ground, there is no sacred ground, no more hallowed ground upon which to build a free and just nation than upon our common ground. And with your support, our organization, Common Ground America, will establish a chapter in every legislative district in every state in this nation, so that every elected official will go to bed every night and wake up every morning with this message from the people ringing in their ears: we are watching you. Our message must be that we will never again let down our guard. We will never again simply trust that those in power will keep their word. We will never again endanger the futures of our children and our grandchildren. That our calling for the rest of our days here on this earth is to ensure that future generations will have the same America and the same opportunities that we were so fortunate to have. America shall not be transformed. In 1833, Joseph Story, who at the age of 32 became the youngest person ever to become a Supreme Court justice, wrote the following in his famous commentaries on the Constitution: republics are created by the virtue, public spirit, and intelligence of the citizens. They fall when the wise are banished from the public councils because they dare to be honest, and the profligate are rewarded because they flatter the people. That's wisdom. It has been said that what the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. And that is indeed true. And there is no greater example of that than America. Our founders conceived it, they believed it, and they achieved it. And it is now to us, the living inheritors of this great and precious gift, to carry on and advance the cause for which so many have sacrificed so much, so that when the pages are written of this time, it can be fairly said that this republic stood strong, and that due to the virtue, the public spirit, and the intelligence of its citizens, the profligate were at once and forever banished from the public councils, and the wise were at long last rewarded for their courage because they dared to be honest. May God bless these sacred, these righteous, these noble, these united states. Thank you.